Senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, accuses State Security Service of plot to file fresh charges against Omoyele Sowore. Senate rejects police budget over inaccurate personnel figure. In international news, Australia's east coast braces for catastrophic fire conditions. State of emergency declared in Queensland and New South Wales. And in sport, former Minister Bolaji Abdullahi urges federal government to restore National Sports Commission.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke. Senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, who is counsel for Revolution Now convener Omoyele Sowore, has accused State Security Service of an attempt to bring up fresh charges against Omoyele Sowore in order to justify keeping him. Falana says the Secret Service has refused to comply with last week's court ruling that Sowore be released. Sowore was arrested in August for planning a nationwide protest labeled #RevolutionNow. The federal government says the planned demonstration was a treasonable act because it was aimed at fomenting trouble against the Buhari administration. Sowore denied the allegations, saying his campaign was to mobilize timid Nigerian youths to denounce poverty, insecurity, and other national challenges assailing their country. The Senate has rejected the Nigeria Police Force annual budget on the ground that documents supplied by the force during the budget defense did not indicate that the NPF had an accurate figure of its personnel. Chairman Senate Committee on Police Affairs, Senator Haliru Jika, told the chairman of the Appropriation Committee, Senator Barao Jibril, that the inaccuracy prompted a meeting with the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Musliu Smith. Minister of Police Affairs, Mohammed Dingyadi, said the figures were inaccurate because they did not include recruits who are not placed in police payroll till they complete their training. President of the Africa Export-Import Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, says the federal government should ensure its borders are opened before the Continental Trade Agreement becomes operational next July. Orama also charged other African leaders to deploy technological means in monitoring their borders against external threats to their security. Orama said the Continental Trade Agreements would turn Nigeria African countries to developed economies. He expressed confidence that Nigeria would not turn its back on the agreement which it had signed. Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, has berated some parents in the state over their carefree attitude to their children. He insists parents of 9 abducted children ought to have been prosecuted for negligence. Kano Police Command has rescued 9 children kidnapped last month and trafficked to Onitsha in Anambra State. Emir Sanusi blamed the parents for allowing their children to roam aimlessly on the streets begging for alms. Speaking at a public lecture on drug abuse organized by the League for Society of Protection Against Drug Abuse over the weekend, Emir Sanusi condemned the adoption of the children but insists the parents have to show they really care for their offspring. Some social media users have disagreed with the Emir's stance, but some are on the same page with the Emir. The Oyo State chapters of the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party are confused over the appeal court's verdict on whether Seyi Makinde is a substantive governor of the state. APC says it perceives the judgment as an affirmation of the independence of the judiciary. The party says the Monday verdict was unambiguous, apt and sound enough to convince any informed mind about the genuineness of the party's claim. The INEC made an error when it declared Makinde as the winner of the March poll. PDP says despite APC's elation, Makinde remains the governor of the state. PDP candidate Seyi Makinde received 515,621 votes as against 357,982 votes scored by APC candidate Bayo Adelabu. On Monday, the appeal court in Ibadan set aside election tribunal judgments that nullified Adelabu's petition against Makinde. Makinde reacted to the ruling by saying he remains governor of the state. The Nigeria Guild of Editors had advised the federal government to drop proposed social media regulation idea. In a communique issued by the Standing Committee of the Guild following a meeting held in Lagos at the weekend, the body argued that the proposed legislation violates Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, which guarantees freedom of expression, including the rights to hold opinions and to receive and impart ideas and information without interference. NGE has urged the federal government to seek ways to maximize the social media to disseminate information on its activities and policies. The Guild also called for engagement between founders and promoters of social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to creatively curtail extremism, violence, and hate speech. Coming up, African stories. Possibility of an ICC appearance for those who commit or incite violence in Guinea. And later, international news. Australia's East Coast braces for catastrophic fire conditions. State of emergency already declared in Queensland and New South Wales.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and African Stories. Just a week ago, the United Nations Security Council called on South Sudan's warring parties to publicly reaffirm their commitment to fully implement the peace deal signed more than a year ago. A calls for a coalition government to be formed by today, November the 12th. Now, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, an 8-country trade bloc in Africa, is echoing that point, urging the South Sudanese parties to set peace agreement guidelines fast.
The Intergovernmental Authority for Development says the parties to the South Sudan Peace Agreement had 63 tasks to complete before a new government is formed, but only 31 have been completed. Of the remaining, IGAD says 9 are critical to the immediate formation of the transitional government.
Transitional period tasks in the security sector, such as cantonment, registration, screening, training, unification, and deployment of unified forces, and operationalization of the DR Commission are lagging behind.
The parties are yet to agree on the boundaries of states, as well as allocation of ministerial positions. The United Nations says it is also vital that sanctions by IGAD against opposition leader Riek Machar be lifted.
This ongoing obstacle is surely not difficult to fix with some creative thinking. To promote face-to-face meetings and to enable him to be able to move around to do that, it should be resolved. Nor can it be that difficult for South Sudan government to issue Dr. Riek Machar with a South Sudanese passport in the spirit of building trust and confidence between the parties.
The African Union, which was earlier opposed to an extension of the 12th November deadline for a transitional government in South Sudan, says the power to bring stability to South Sudan largely lies with its leaders.
These people of South Sudan demand urgent peace and not war anymore. These citizens understand that not all outstanding issues in the peace agreement can be resolved overnight. However, they also know that if the parties wish for the country to return to normal life, this can be achieved.
The South Sudan government has given its commitment.
I would be remiss not to mention here the importance of positive messaging by the parties, IGAD member states, regional and international partners in creating a conducive environment for the parties to effectively and efficiently use the 100 days to complete the pending task.
The parties have agreed to continue regular dialogue to bridge the mistrust among them.
The region is asking the parties to the South Sudan peace agreement to exercise high level of compromise in resolving outstanding issues. They hope this will be the last extension to the deadline of forming a transitional government in the country that has suffered internal conflict since 2013. IGAD will review progress made by the parties after 50 days.
The International Criminal Court has asked Guinea's government and the opposition to resume talks following protests and deadly clashes. The opposition says at least 16 civilians have been killed since last month during demonstrations in the capital, Conakry, on suspicion that President Alpha Condé intends to amend the constitution to run for office again. ICC's chief prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, has warned that those who commit or incite violence in the country will be made to face trial in Guinea or at the ICC. Already, the International Court is investigating the 2009 massacre of more than 150 opposition supporters in the country. Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund and Africa Investment SkyTrain Consortium projects have signed a concession agreement with the government of Ghana for the development of a world-class mass transport system in the city of Accra. The $3 billion SkyTrain system will be the first of its kind in Africa. Angela Coppola reports.
The project first saw the light of day at last year's inaugural African Investment Forum in South Africa. Today saw the signing of the concession agreement. A detailed feasibility study will now follow.
And hopefully the step that is being taken today, signing the concession, means that the project itself is that much nearer conclusion. That is what we're hoping for, so that the people of Ghana could benefit from the progress and the relief that a modern system of communication in our capital city is going to bring.
This is what the Africa Investment Forum is about. We provide a platform, but our heads of state play crucial roles in making deals happen.
The concession agreement was signed with lenders in mind, which analysts suggest points to a bankable project.
We should be able to reach financial close within a year from now, and that's the hope, and then we can start the construction around that time. In terms of the jobs created during construction, we anticipate there'll be over 5,000 jobs just during the construction phase.
The SkyTrain project is a city rail network, something that is essential as the capital city transforms itself.
Today in Ghana, there are more people in the urban areas than in the rural areas. And a project of this nature will transform the cost of living, will transform our nation, will transform our urban areas.
While it's a city-specific project, it's the single biggest infrastructure project ever conceptualized and conceived on the continent. It's valued at around $2.6 billion.
Infrastructure is that foundation that's going to be needed to get the African free trade area up and running and profitable for everybody involved.
Ethiopia's cabinet members have approved a new bill to combat fake news and hate speech. The bill drafted by the Attorney General is named officially the Computer Crime Proclamation. At a time when ethnic-related violence is on the rise, the government expects the new legislation to help stop hate speech and the spreading of false information. The Ethiopian government says it does not currently have the legal framework to deal with the issue. The Council of Ministers said in a statement it has become necessary to enact the law because the nation cannot address problems arising from hate speeches and fake news with existing laws. At least 86 persons were killed last month in ethnic conflict, which are believed to have been fueled in part by divisive, inflammatory content on social media. Despite approval by the Council of Ministers, the bill will still be sent to Parliament and debated. It will become law after the House of People's Representatives approve the bill. Some activists are concerned that if the draft bill becomes law, it could be used to curb media freedom. When we return, international news. Australia's east coast braces for catastrophic fire conditions. And later, sports. Former Minister Bolaji Abdullahi urges federal government to restore National Sports Commission. Welcome back. This is ANN News. In foreign stories, Australia is facing catastrophic fire conditions across the country's east coast as temperatures are expected to soar. Authorities in the states of Queensland and New South Wales have declared a state of emergency on Monday and urged residents to evacuate areas deemed at most risk of fires. Sydney has been designated as catastrophic fire danger for Tuesday, when temperatures are expected to hit a high of 37 degrees Celsius. This is the first time the harbour city has been rated at that level since new fire danger ratings were introduced in 2009. The city was rooted in smoke on Tuesday morning, home to more than 5 million people. Cities reached by large areas of bushland, much of which remains tinder dry following little rain across the country's east coast in recent months. The city is home to 5 million residents. Firefighters have been given broad powers to control government resources, force evacuations, close roads, and shut down utilities to avoid deaths. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam has pledged on Monday to spare no efforts in bringing an end to anti-government protests that have rocked the city for more than 5 months. The pledge came after a day of violence in which one person was shot and another set on fire. Lam's comments are likely to fuel speculation that harsher legal and police measures may be in the works to curb the protest. She has also refused to accept the protesters' demands for political concessions. She said there should be no wishful thinking that by escalating violence, the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region government will yield to pressure to satisfy their so-called political demands. She said emphatically that will not happen. Monday's violence is likely to further inflame passions in Hong Kong after the students who fell during earlier protests succumbed to his injuries on Friday, and police arrested 6 pro-democracy lawmakers over the weekend on charges of obstructing the local assembly during a raucous midday meeting. All were freed on bail. China's ruling Communist Party has also indicated it may try to find a way to enact anti-subversion laws in the territory, as such measures were shelved previously because of public opposition. Hong Kong is a semi-autonomous region under the one country, two systems arrangement. US President Donald Trump has renewed his attacks against the impeachment investigation, 2 days ahead of public hearings targeting him for allegedly abusing his office to help himself politically. Before observing the annual Veterans Day tribute to the US military at a New York ceremony on Monday, Trump claimed on Twitter, without offering any evidence, that Congressman Adam Schiff, the leader of the impeachment probe in the House of Representatives, had doctored transcripts of 8 officials who have testified in recent weeks behind closed doors in a secure room at the U.S. Capitol. According to the transcript, the current and former diplomatic and national security officials have detailed how Trump and his aides pressed Ukraine to launch the investigation of one of his chief 2020 Democratic presidential challenges, former Vice President Joe Biden, his son Hunter Biden's work for a Ukrainian natural gas company, and a debunked theory that Ukraine meddled in the 2016 election, plus Russia, as the U.S. intelligence community concluded. Skip says his inquiry has gathered an ever-growing body of evidence after weeks of behind-closed-doors testimony. This includes testimonies from witnesses and documents, including the president's own words in his July the 25th court record. The lawmaker says these not only confirm but far exceed the initial information in the whistleblower's complaint. Skip says the public impeachment hearings will not serve as vehicles for what he called sham investigations into the Bidens or debunked conspiracies about 2016 U.S. election interference that President Trump pressed Ukraine to conduct for his personal political benefits. The 2020 U.S. presidential election is now closer than a year away. The first, Democrats have to decide who to nominate as their candidates to take on President Donald Trump. New York former Mayor billionaire Michael Bloomberg, who is hinting at jumping into the race, could change everything. Dan Williams reports.
Despite biting cold weather in the US state of Iowa, the 2020 presidential race is heating up. Campaigning by Democratic primary candidates, more than a dozen in all, has switched into high gear ahead of February's Iowa caucuses. the party's first nominating contest ahead of the 2020 presidential election.
This battle is going to be fought in the winter, in the woods, in Iowa, and New Hampshire. And the faint-hearted are going to stay home, but not the Yang Gang, am I right?
The campaigning here in Iowa by the various candidates has been intense. That will no doubt be amplified in the coming months as each one looks for some much-needed momentum.
At a local town hall organised by the League of Latin American Citizens, Iowans prepare to question some of the candidates.
Some of the younger ones are coming up to the surface and are really talking about real issues and how they're going to fix these issues. And that is bringing the young ones up, and Biden's going down.
The field for the nomination has whittled down slightly in recent weeks. Those polling outside of the top four face a battle to stay relevant.
Things change so quickly these days, more quickly than ever before. So I believe that there's opportunity there for people who want an alternative to, the top 2 or 3 candidates that they're considering right now.
That is a plausible argument, according to David Peterson of Iowa State University.
I would not be comfortable saying that the 4 top-tier candidates right now are going to be the first 4, the top 4 in the caucuses. I think there's a lot of space for growth for a lot of the other candidates as well.
Iowa is a vital race. Only once in the history of the modern Iowa caucuses has someone finished lower than third and gone on to win the party's nomination.
Certainly not necessarily win Iowa. It's important to do better than expected. It's important to do well enough to keep going, to keep having volunteers, to keep getting money, to keep getting media attention.
But the bigger question for Democratic voters is not just who can win the nomination, but who can then go on and win the presidential race.
Can any of them actually beat Donald Trump?
Well, I sure hope so.
For now, for the Democratic hopefuls, it's one race at a time.
Up next, sport. Former Minister Abdullahi Bolaji urges federal government to restore National Sports Commission. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. This is in the news in sport. African 400 meters record holder Fadilat Ogunkoya Montayo has emerged as chairperson of the Southwest Athletics Association, while the chairman of Ekiti Athletics Association, Samuel Fatuna, is the technical director. SWA is the body comprising all chairmen of athletics associations in the 6 Southwest states and Southwest members on the board of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. Former Minister of Sports Bolaji Abdullahi says the restoration of the governance system of the National Sports Commission remains the best way for managing sports in Nigeria. Bolaji says having a sports commission with an elected director general for a guaranteed renewable 8 or 10-year tenure will turn around the declining fortune of sports in the country. That is in the news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV.